Hey guys, it's Nick. Thanks for tuning into Long Island Wargaming. This is my second attempt at this video because the Google Hangouts decided to mute me and stop my screen share from going on. So let me just get myself set up here. All right, so we got this guy and this guy. So this is going to be an in-house video in which I just talk a little bit about the Wood Elf Warband for Mordheim. That's the campaign we're doing quite shortly. So Dave is going to be playing for the first time, and he's also going to be playing an experimental warband that's available on Morheimer.net. So I'm going to take a quick look through this. This video won't be as detailed as the first time because I don't feel like talking about it again out loud to myself. But I also kind of put a list together that I was doing in the initial video, but since the video crashed, I'm going to go ahead and just keep what's here, and we'll kind of discuss it. So with the Wood Elf Warband, there are 5 heroes, or there's going to be 3 or 4 different types of heroes, but they're going to be 5 heroes out of 6. You can have up to 6 heroes. We've got the Waywarden, Spellwalker, which is the caster. The Waywarden is your leader. You want to keep him alive. We've got the Wild Hunter, which is an interesting guy, and then Pathfinders. Then for henchmen, we've got War Dancers, Glade Warriors, Wolfhounds, and Wood Spirit. So we have um, this is Forest Walk. You can go through forest, no problem. Not really applicable to a city scenario. Excellent sight. This allows them to engage in units in combat or find units hidden, double their initiative, which is pretty huge. And this is something that we usually end up ruling out in our home rolls because it's just a little bit overpowered. So we usually house rule this rule out. Elves will not use black powder. Elves will not hire hired swords, mercenaries, or dramatis personae, and elves with long-lived prevent them from advancing from henchman to hero as easily as the other warbands do. So we do have an experience chart where these different heroes start. The leader obviously starts at 20 experience. This affects your warband rating, which allows you to get more or less experience depending on everyone else's warband rating. This also, the start point on where you get your experience also tells you, or also prevents you from getting upgrades as often. So the guys that start at 8 will get more advancements than the guys that start further along because it starts spacing out just like any other game. When you go from, if you're playing games like say World of Warcraft, going from level 1 to 2 takes you like 5 minutes. Going from level 89 to 90 takes you a day or two, or I don't know. Anyway, so we've got some skilled tables right here. Tells you what heroes allowed to take from what skill trees. And we've got a maximum profile here for what the elves are allowed to max out at. Now we'll quickly take a quick look at the weapons list. I'm going to make sure that my broadcast is good. Okay. And we've got Dagger, which gives the opponent an extra armor save when you're using it because it's supposed to be a small weapon. It's not as effective. Axe is -1 to armor save, which is wonderful because at Long Island Wargaming we do armor pen -1 starts at strength 5, not strength 4, which brings more value to your armor, like your shield and your light armor. Thornblade is a special weapon that you use for the Wood Elves. I'm not going to go through it because I don't particularly like it, but if you want to check it out, feel free to check out this website. Dave might use it in his warband. I'm going to make a little mock warband without it. We got swords, which are great for parrying. So you see my Waywarden has 2 swords because they're effective. You can parry with them, and I like their critical hit chart. And we have a spear, which is decent. I usually like putting spear on henchmen because since they're not as strong, it gives them always strike first, which is nice. Asarai Blade Staff is a spear that uses 2 hands. It gets +1 strength when you're charging. It's pretty useful. For missile weapons for the heroes, a bunch of different bows. Elf bow is upgraded range, I believe, and it's got an extra little thing to it. I forget. I gotta check the regular book. And then the Glade Wood bow is a bow that you can only get during, so anything with an asterisk you can only get during warband creation. Otherwise, you have to search for it later on, and it's a random cost. It's more expensive than it is listed right here. The Glade Wood bow, I forgot. Let me just scroll down real quick. What was it all about? Oh, it's kind of like 7th edition or 6th edition Wood Elves, where they got strength 4 at half range, which was nice. So I actually gave that to my Way Warden. I figured he might as well have the best swords and weapons for ranged attacks. Light armor is pretty awesome. There's a bunch of different, armors here. Um, and miscellaneous stuff. Elfin Cloak, which is -1 to be hit when you're getting shot at. Um, there's a couple other things here, so I'm not going to get into them because to me, when I make a warband, I go as few models as possible to start. And I'll get into that in a second. And I go with cheap stuff. Depends if I play a warband like dwarves. Dwarves get Gromroll armor at half price at warband creation. Gromroll armor is a 4 board save, no movement penalty, and it's 150 gold crowns. At warband creation, it's 75. So it's uh, this 85 points is a hero to me. Um, if I had to purchase it during the game, it's going to be 80 gold crowns plus 2d6. So it might be more, might be less. I have to also find it. But you know what? For starting, I like to just get guys in the field and then work with getting nice stuff later. But that's just me. Dave might decide to get all the expensive stuff first and just go with it. But also going back to what I was saying before, keeping it small. Now, heroes, you want to max out on heroes. You can get up to 6. Right now, we're going to start with 5. We're going to have a Way Warden, a Spellwalker, a Wild Hunter, and then 2 Pathfinders. The Pathfinders are just the crappier guys. They're kind of like young bloods from the other warbands, the mercenary humans. But anyway, the heroes are going to allow you to do exploration after the game, where you can get loot and get weird stone and income. So it's important to have all your heroes do well, survive, but at least max out on available heroes. And at starting, I like to go with little to no henchmen. With Skaven, I'd bring a few, but there's an upkeep cost. So if you decide to bring no equipment and just max out with heroes and henchmen, your warband doesn't progress very well because you have to split your um, your income amongst more people, which means at the end of the game you end up with less money. Where if you just go with 5 heroes for a couple turns, for a couple games, you have to split it less ways, so you get more money for the you being the player to purchase stuff. So that's why when I would play with Skaven and I max out with 20 guys, there's really little income coming into me to purchase more equipment because it's just the upkeep costs. So at first, start it off with a bunch of heroes, and that's usually fine. So I'll go through what I've got equipped here. 2 swords on the Way Warden. I think that's pretty useful. Everyone starts with a dagger, by the way, but I want to give him 2 swords. This way he can parry and do well in combat. He's got light armor, so a 6-up save. Helmet across the board for everyone except the caster. Helmets affect the injury chart when you're fighting. There's a chance of getting knocked down, which means next turn you get up. Stunned, which means next turn you go to knocked down. And then there's just dead. So the helmet prevents you from going. I think you have to roll on it. I forget. I have to check. It might be like a 4+. You go stunned, knocked down instead of stunned, but it's helpful in keeping your guys alive longer. And I gave him the glade bow, so he'll do better at half range, whatnot. Walker, I don't want him in combat, or I don't think Dave's going to want him in combat. So I gave him an extra dagger, nice and cheap. So he has 2 attacks. He's got his longbow for shooting. Now with the Spellwalker, if we get a good spell for combat, then maybe we can re-equip him better later on. Before the campaign starts, we're going to roll a d6 to see what spell he gets. He can get more spells as he goes on and advances. So it's a random spell at first. Wild Hunter, he's got a decent little stat line. He starts at 12 experience. I give him a helmet too. I decided to go with 2 weapons, 2 axes. This way, he can get up in people's faces and attack and deplete armor. Obviously, he's got a bow too. I gave him an elf bow, which is nice. Pathfinder, he's got a helmet, a longbow. So both of Pathfinders are built out the same way. So with experience, that brings us to 60 experience altogether. Now for henchmen, I decided to go with the hunting cat. I'll just scroll on down there. Or let me finish going through the heroes. So the Way Warden has leadership abilities, 6 inches. Spellwalker, he's going to get a random spell. This hunter guy, he can give his leadership to beasts within the area. So the play style of this guy is have the dogs and the hunting cats fight around him. He also has Spirit Totem, which gives him the Stag Aspect special skill, which allows him to take strength skills, which is very different for elves. Most elves can't take strength anything. And the Pathfinders, these guys, um, they must always carry a missile weapon. I didn't really realize that the first time around. I don't know if that's the same for the Warden. No. All right, so these guys, obviously, they're Pathfinders. They need to have a missile weapon at all times. So that means if you're robbed, you have to first spend your money on getting them a missile weapon again. If you can't, then whatever. But the goal is get them a missile weapon because it's the role state that has to have one. So they've got their bows, obviously, two long bows, and they've got this nice little ability, natural stealth. Enemies get -1 initiative when trying to discover them. That's pretty cool. I like that. Um, Decent. So we'll go on to henchmen. War dancers. They have like a 6+ ward save that armor save that can never be depleted. That shows them parrying and their tattoos, whatever. And they're nimble fighters, which means water hunters may always attempt to parry regardless of what weapon they use. So these are the henchmen I would recommend getting first. You can get up to 3 of them, but I would wait a game or two before getting them. Wolfhounds and hunting cats, they're just, combat guys. With these guys, I would use war dogs from Chaos. For these guys, I would use saber tusks from the ogres. And then we've got Wood Spirit, which is the big monster guy that you can eventually purchase or save up for down the road. Now, kind of going back to what I was saying before, you want to just spend money on crazy. You could buy this guy right off the bat, and then have less stuff. But that would be up to Dave. I would never recommend getting this thing right off the bat. It's just I don't know. It's cool. It's got only 2 attacks apparently, but it's interesting. It's got a bunch of different abilities. I would just stick with the infantry. That's what I would do. So over here, got all my heroes lined up. I've got a hunting cat for good taste. So I've got 6 guys all together. That brings my warband rating up to 60 with experience. Now, what you do to calculate your warband rating is you also do 5 times the amount of people that you have. So 5 times 6 is 30. So we got 30 per person. So that's warband rating 90. Now, that's about right for where you want to start. Usually around 100. Maybe if you've got Skaven or Vampire Count, you might have around 110, 120. But this is just right for, I think, an elf warband starting off. So again, this is an experimental warbands. Some of the abilities I didn't go through the where are they? I didn't go through the special abilities that the elves, the wood elves specifically can get. So we're gonna have to figure that out. Usually with the wood elves, one of the abilities that you can get with any elf, I think, is infiltrate, which is like a ability that allows you to start anywhere on the map. That we nerf, we house rule that one out. So we're gonna see how this warband goes. This is gonna be, I think, the only experimental warband we're going to use. Otherwise, we're going to use ones that are from the book. Kind of talking about the experimental warbands. This situation with Mordheim, since it's so out of date, it's kind of like the direction Warhammer's in right now. So I guess I should be used to the whole GW Warhammer craziness. But there's GW like sanctioned warbands from the original book, and then there's GW town criers that have warbands here and there, and there's other supplements. So there's those 2, and then there's experimental ones. So there's 3. And then there's the FAQ stuff. So there's all these different things, and you kind of get to pick and choose with Mordheim and figure out, what's good for you guys and what isn't. So again, there's GW stuff straight from the rulebook, and then there's GW supplements that they've set out that have warbands that they've made but aren't balanced, so they're not official, quote unquote. And then there's just experimental stuff. So I'll even click right here. This is Mordheimer.com. Hasn't been updated in a very, very, very long time. But if I click here on warbands, it's got official, unofficial, experimental. So yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff. So this leaves the warband with 14 gold crowns afterwards to purchase more equipment or stuff next game. But this is what I would do for Wood Elf warband, and we're going to see how it works. And if there's anything that's OP, we will house rule it out, but we'll see how it goes. And again, this was just a little bit of an in-house video where I can just kind of talk about the warband, so that Dave can listen to this, because I'm not sure when I'm going to get to see him. Plus, this was my first time going through it, so I figured I might as well just talk while I look at it instead of just look at it alone by myself at home. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.